Take out a $20 bill. It's cotton and ink, worth maybe 10 cents. It only becomes $20 because millions of people agree to pretend that it is. That's not economics. That's a shared belief, held by strangers, enforced by nobody you will ever meet. Bitcoin didn't invent that. It just stopped hiding it. To understand Bitcoin, you first have to understand why people believe things together. Religions don't begin with buildings or robes or rules. They begin with a problem. How do strangers who will never meet learn to trust each other? For most of human history, that problem had one answer: a shared story. A story big enough that believing it made you part of something. And those stories tend to grow the same handful of parts: a founding text holding the original truth, a founder whose life becomes the proof, rituals that turn belief into daily action, a congregation so that nobody believes alone, evangelists who carry the story outward, prophecy, promising that the future will vindicate you, and eventually, schism, the fight over what the text really meant. Every single one of those exists in Bitcoin. And that is not an insult, it's an explanation. It starts in October 2008 with 9 pages, a white paper posted quietly to an obscure mailing list, not a company, not a product, a document. It described a way for strangers to exchange value with no bank in the middle, no government, no authority, no permission. In that world, mathematics would do the job that trust used to do. Years later, people still quote it line by line. They argue over what its author meant, the way scholars argue over scripture, because that is what it became. A founding text. The author called himself Satoshi Nakamoto. Nobody knows who that was, man, woman, or group. It has never been proven. For 2 years, he wrote, coded, and guided the project. Then in 2011, he sent one final message and vanished. He left behind roughly 1 million Bitcoin, untouched to this day, worth billions, never spent, never moved. Sit with how strange that is. He had every reason to come back, and he never did. And here's the uncomfortable part. That disappearance may be the most important thing that ever happened to Bitcoin. A founder who stays can be corrupted. He can be pressured, arrested, bought, or simply proven wrong. A founder who vanishes becomes something else entirely. He becomes a symbol, permanent, impossible to disprove. There is no leader to subpoena, no headquarters to raid, no human being who can betray the idea by being human. Religions have understood this for thousands of years. The founder leaves, the text remains, the following grows. Then come the rituals. In 2013, a user posted a drunk, misspelled rant telling people not to sell. The typo became a word, and it turned an investment strategy into an identity, not a prediction, a vow. You hold through the crashes, especially through the crashes, because the suffering becomes the proof of your conviction. That is not financial strategy. That is devotional practice. There is a calendar, too. Every 4 years, the supply of new Bitcoin is cut in half, written into the code, unchangeable, predictable to the day. And the community gathers around it like a holy season, a scheduled event, promising scarcity, promising vindication. Then there is the congregation, forums, group chats, conferences, entire cities of believers who have never met, where doubt is met first with patience and eventually with pressure. And there is evangelism. Believers call it orange pilling, converting the skeptic. They rarely argue with you about returns. They tell you that you simply don't understand yet, that one day you will see it. That is the language of conversion, not investment. And there is prophecy. Price predictions become promises. A future so certain it justifies the present. Hold long enough and you will be proven right. But every belief system eventually cracks. In 2017, Bitcoin split in two. On the surface, the fight was technical. How large should a block of transactions be? But the argument underneath it was not technical at all. It was about what Satoshi had really meant. One side said the text demanded one thing. The other said it demanded the opposite. And neither side could ask him. He was gone. So they split the chain and each declared itself the true one. That is not a software update. That is a schism. Now here's where all of this turns back on you. It would be easy to stop here, call Bitcoin a religion, and feel clever about it. But that judgment only works if ordinary money is something else. So let's check. Gold was valuable because we agreed that it was rare and beautiful. Paper money began as a promise that you could trade it back for that gold. Then in 1971, the United States quietly ended that promise. The paper stayed. The gold behind it did not. So what backs the money in your pocket now? Belief that your government persists, that the institution holds, that tomorrow morning, it all still works. You have simply believed it so long that it stopped feeling like belief. Bitcoin did not invent faith-based money. It removed the institution that was hiding the faith. And that is the part most people get backwards. Without a central authority, a decentralized system does not need less trust. It needs more. A dollar can survive your doubt because the government enforces it whether you believe or not. Bitcoin has no such enforcement. It exists only as long as enough people keep choosing to believe that it does. Strip away the authority, and belief has to carry all of the weight alone. So take out that 20 again. Cotton and ink. 10 cents of material, worth $20 because we all keep agreeing that it is. One system asks you to trust an institution. The other asks you to trust mathematics and a crowd. But both of them are asking you to believe in something you cannot verify alone. So maybe the real question was never whether Bitcoin became a religion. Maybe it's why we ever believed that money was anything else.